Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Teresa DeSantis, and I am going to be talking about couples that grow apart. Now, many couples feel that when they're in long-term relationships, that they are or have grown apart from their partner. Now, first, I want to start by defining what is really considered to be a healthy relationship. And that's what we call an interdependent relationship. In this type of relationship, each partner is not stifled by the other, where they lose their individuality because the entire relationship has to revolve around each other. You become each other's world, and that is never a healthy or a good thing. Then when there are relationships where couples do very little together, and guess what? That's not healthy or a good thing either. So interdependence finds the balance between the two. And this is where you can have your own interests, your partner has their own interests, but the two of you balance it by having interests that you share together. So for example, let's say that your partner likes to go hunting, and they go away once or twice a year for a long weekend with friends to engage in that activity. You, on the other hand, have an interest in skiing, and you go away with your friends for a weekend or two a year to enjoy yourself. Neither one of you stop each other from doing these activities, and that is healthy. But if the two of you never go away together on a long weekend, just to spend time alone and enjoy each other's company, then that becomes a problem. Now, many people are afraid to talk to their partner about feeling that you are or have grown apart. It could be because communication has broken down in your relationship, or real communication has become non-existent between the two of you. It could also be that you tried to talk to your partner and their response was denying that this is or has happened. Or it could just be plain fear of facing the problem because you're afraid of the outcome of the conversation. If this issue is not addressed, the emotional, physical, and sexual distance between the two of you will continue to get worse over time and possibly get to a point where you or your partner feel that you are in a loveless relationship, but for whatever reason, you justify staying in that relationship. Well, the problem with that is, even if you can find something to fill that emotional void, like work or children, in the end, you're still going to feel that you are living an empty life where something is always missing. So to cope with that type of loneliness, a lot of people end up making poor decisions and start to get involved in self-destructive behaviors. What are self-destructive behaviors? There are tons of them. But just as a couple of examples, maybe you start to overcompensate and you start to work too many hours, okay, as an escape so that you don't have time with your partner. Maybe you turn to drinking too much. Maybe spending too much time with friends without your partner, purposely becoming involved in activities that you know your partner will not like, or becoming involved in an emotional and or sexual affair. These things may act as a temporary Band-Aid, but the bottom line is that Band-Aid is eventually coming and getting ripped off and reminding you that no matter what you have tried to do to fill that emotional void, it's still there. So how does growing apart happen? Well, growing apart in a relationship is not something that happens overnight. It's a process that happens slowly over time. Is it normal? Yes. Is it a good thing? No. And many relationships end because the couple grows apart. So here are some reasons, okay, that a couple may grow apart. And if you take them and you put them all together, really the summary of it is because you stop connecting with your partner in everyday life. And that's going to kind of cover some of the next items I'm going to mention. So first, work obligations. Work is important, because it supports the family. Some people have to work a lot of hours and cannot afford to pass up overtime when it comes up. Even with that being understood, you have to ask yourself if the job is that important that it cannot be balanced somehow and is allowed to destroy your relationship with your partner. Children are great. They're wonderful, but they demand a lot of time and a lot of attention. When children are in the home, your partner is no longer number one. The children's needs are. This is acceptable, but guess what? Only to a point. And that point being where children only take away from your relationship with your partner to a degree and not drain it completely. Next, extended family conflicts. Now, some of us have to endure having to deal with extended family members. Maybe mom or dad are ill, or maybe they live with you. Maybe your partner or yourself feel very drained by having to see to an extended family member's needs. That takes up a tremendous amount of your free time and therefore taking away from you and your partner. Loss of balance due to friendships and social commitments. Maybe you or your partner are spending too much time apart to socialize with friends or have become involved in outside activities or organizations that take up most of your free time. This is something that can easily happen, especially when one partner is trying to escape and find a way to fulfill an emotional void. Next is health issues. Maybe you or your partner have developed health issues that impair the ability to enjoy certain activities you used to do together or even have sex. But instead of talking about it, trying to make adjustments and meet in the middle, which would be healthy, many couples don't work on this, and it tends to build an invisible wall between the two of you. Now, one of the most important rules of a long and happy relationship is that growth and changes are inevitable and they're going to happen, but the couple takes the majority of these changes on together and not separately. Many couples start drifting apart and don't even realize that it's happening. When they reach a point where they do recognize it, then guess what? It may be too late. Now, there are some major signs to look for, or I'm sure that you have felt that you and your partner are drifting apart from each other. Okay, first, you don't talk with your partner anymore because you feel that your partner doesn't care. Or if you talk to them about something that's important to you and not important to them, they kind of turn you off. You feel a disconnect in areas because you're struggling separately to adjust to a major life change, such as the birth of a baby. So instead of tackling that together, you're doing it separately. Sex with your partner becomes rare or doesn't exist. So you become just roommates. Next, you become easily irritated or annoyed with your partner. You or your partner make a major decision without the other's input. You miss doing things with your partner. You feel something is missing in your relationship. Or you have this feeling that your relationship is starting to come to an end. Now, growing apart can cause you to become anxious or even panic. Remember something, it is normal for a couple to grow apart in a long-term relationship. We grow apart a lot of times too because we naturally get pulled in different directions, life gets busy, and life is always shifting. But also, as individuals, we grow. Our interests, our priorities, and opinions are going to change over time, depending on our personal experiences. The same goes for your partner. So over a long period of time, Look back at your partner now and reflect to your dating days. How about the day that you moved in together or the day that you got married? And take a look, and I bet you will notice that they are no longer the same person they were back then, and neither are you. And that's because of natural growth. Now, growing apart from your partner is a very silent process, but one that could be ultimately deadly. Will it destroy a relationship? Yes, it can. And many relationships end because of this. Kids grow up, they go away to college, and you look at each other and you don't even know who each other is anymore. If you have grown apart from your partner, is it too late to fix it? No, it's never too late, as long as both parties are willing to work their way back to each other. So given that both parties want to fix the situation, what are some of the things that you can try that will start you down the path to fixing your relationship? Well, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down into 3 different categories. 1, emotional, intellectual, 2, physical, and 3, sexual. These categories will overlap with each other, and they should bleed into each other, since many times one will ultimately produce results in the other. So let's talk about a little bit about emotional, intellectual. How do you get back that way? Well, give emotional support to each other. Share your struggles and accomplishments with each other. Talk about what you want to achieve in your day-to-day life. And sure, talk about future goals, but focus on day-to-day first. Push each other to achieve those goals. Pick your partner up emotionally when they need it, and let each other know and feel that you have their back. Appreciate each other for who you are. Do not try to change your partner. There is only one person that can change your partner, and guess what? That's them themselves, if they choose to do it. You can only be responsible for changing yourself if you choose to do that. If you have children, appreciate your partner for the parent that they are. Even when you feel negative emotions towards your partner, think of their good qualities or the good things that they do. Many people in long-term relationships start to feel very unappreciated for the little things that they do on a day-to-day basis, and they feel that they're taken for granted. Set aside 15 minutes of time each day just to talk about each other's day or anything else that focuses just on the two of you. If you have children, it's given that you're exhausted at night, but everyone needs to put in some effort. So going to bed 15 minutes later is not the end of the world, and it is amazing how much ground 2 people can cover in a 15-minute conversation. Make sure that that conversation is not all about you or all about your partner. It has to be give and take. Set aside 1 hour minimum of 3 times a week to do an activity together. That means no distractions by other things like cell phones, iPads, or computers. Just time together, whether it's watching television, maybe doing a chore around the house together, taking a class together, reading a book together, doing a sport together, and so on. So how do we start to initiate physical closeness with our partner? Well, some of the ways that you can start to promote that physical closeness, and not meaning sexual closeness, is doing activities together. You can lay in bed at night and just talk for 5 to 10 minutes before going to sleep. And if you don't usually go to bed with each other, try to make a point of doing that a couple of nights a week and at least sleeping closely to each other. Go out for a walk together. Sit close or cuddle with each other Watch television, even for 30 minutes. Go out to the park together, maybe have a picnic. Do dishes or other household chores together. Hold hands once in a while, and definitely kiss once in a while. A very good and important exercise is setting aside a minimum of one night a month for date night. Some couples do this weekly, but that's not always feasible due to finances or babysitting issues. But this time now is very important to the relationship. And guess what? When you go out, leave that cell phone in the car or put them on silent. In other words, pay attention to each other and not your cell phone or the television that may be hanging up in a restaurant and playing a sports game. Now comes the topic of sex. There is a very big difference between sex and making love, which is sex with a lot of emotional intimacy mixed in. When couples grow apart, they tend to have less and less sexual contact, from kissing all the way down to doing all types of sexual activities together. Usually, when the emotional closeness starts to repair itself, the intimate part of sex starts to slowly return. So what can you do? Initiate a conversation about sex. Find out what your partner likes most. Tell them what you like most. Talk about the lack of sex and how you want to work together to improve your sex life. Try extending periods of foreplay for as long as possible. Use sensual touching, massage, music, candles, or anything that you feel will set a romantic, intimate tone rather than a down and dirty tone. Surprise each other when the mood is right. Even if you're not in the mood, when your partner does surprise you, please do your best to go along with it. Usually within 5 minutes, you will become more responsive mentally and physically to what is going on around you. Next, try to have sex in different rooms or places. And there are 2 specific day-to-day factors that I want to discuss before we end this webinar that contribute to growing apart. And I feel that I need to go into these in more detail. And these are work obligations and children. Now, when it comes to work, most of us need to work in order to survive. Many places of business are expecting more and more from their employees, but don't necessarily change what they're paying that employee. Meeting the demands of work are very important, but there has to be a balance where your job does not become a major factor to your growing apart from your partner and ultimately destroy your relationship. There are some careers that are more difficult on partners than others because that career can involve rotating shifts, maybe rotating days off, mandatory overtime, or working a steady evening shift, which is usually family time, or working overnight and your partner being exhausted. Employers will take more and more from you if permitted. If you or your partner work a job that is excessively demanding, it is still important to make time for each other. Work it out within your schedules. Maybe you have to say no to an overtime shift, but it's better than you coming home one day and your partner no longer being there, or your children not knowing who you are. When it's your day off, take your day off and be with your partner. Help out around the house and spend time with the children. If you own a business, that is usually at least a 60-hour work week. Make sure that you put aside an hour each day in the evening or daytime, depending on your partner's schedule, to be with your partner and the children if you have children, and then go back to working if you have to. A little goes a long way as long as the time spent together is quality time where you and your partner are emotionally invested during that time period. Even if you are not interested or understand what your partner does for a living, guess what? Ask questions. It's very important that you and also your partner feel interested in each other and talk about work. That can open the door to other paths of communication. Also, make sure that you use your vacation and personal time for family time. Even if you cannot afford to go on vacation, have a staycation together. Make plans, activities around the house, or things that do not cost much outside the house. The next major issue concerns children. Now, as parents, we feel that we have to put our children first. And some parents feel that they can never take a few days alone with their partner without the children having to tag along. This is very unhealthy and ultimately can hurt your relationship. A relationship with your partner needs to be nurtured. That may not be possible on a day-to-day basis because life is crazy, and especially if you have children. But as a couple, you need time to reconnect and rejuvenate. Family vacations are important, but so are 3 or 4 weekends a year spaced out with your partner to reconnect and just focus on each other. Now, in the hierarchy of families, everybody will say children come first. So guess what? You're right. If you have no money and your child needs a pair of sneakers, but you also need a pair of shoes, child wins that one hands down, and they come first. Outside of those basic necessities, the healthy hierarchy really is you first, your partner second, the children third. If you are not happy, then you cannot make your partner happy. If the two of you are not happy together, then you cannot make your children happy. If you feel disconnected from your partner and are living as friends or roommates, the children pick up on this, and you cannot provide for them in a way that they deserve to be emotionally feel secure and happy as a family unit. Time away from the children not only helps the relationship with your partner and helps you reconnect, but it helps your children become independent and learn that mom and dad are taking care of each other's needs. And it's just important for them to do that as mom and dad take care of their needs. Remember that as parents, we are our children's role models, and they learn from us. What they see, think, and feel about their parents' interactions together in the family home is what they are more than likely going to practice in their romantic relationships as an adult. So with this webinar today, if you attempt anything that I discussed or threw out there as suggestions and you're struggling with initiating things or feel that your partner is not willing or responsive, then it is just suggested that you seek couples counseling to help find your way back to each other. Please do not hesitate to go to couples counseling. Many times, by the time a couple comes into my office for assistance, they have let things go so far before coming in, and many times the relationship will be beyond repair. And I definitely don't want to see that for you. So before I start the question and answer period, if you found the information in this educational webinar informative, can you please take the time to like us on Facebook, Instagram, or visit our new YouTube channel at First Light Psych Online Services and subscribe. There will be more webinars and topics coming, since some of my staff and myself are dedicated to having these webinars to help people with day-to-day life issues, not just clinical issues. We would love to hear any input about topics that you would be interested in us covering. Please email us at support@firstlightsci.com. firstlightpsych.com with any input and suggestions. And thank you for attending today. Let's start the question and answer period. Any questions? Questions?